Yo, what's up? This is my DPS test build. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you, YouTubers and just the general community, that Tess is not a DPS character. She's a support character. And to be honest, she's one of the support characters that you basically just don't play. You use her support skill, but you mainly use her for her ultimate. And you play her with like ult-based teams, and that's what she's good for. The truth of the matter is that that was what she was designed to be, but there are ways to make her a DPS, and once you know how to do that, you can, for the most part, do most of the content in the game as DPS tests. The only content I've come across that you can't always do is neurosim, but it's dependent on what boss you fight. For instance, right now, Gavin is available, and she's great against Gavin. Anything that's single target, she'll do well against, especially if they have a reasonable hitbox. Fast enemies like Esther are usually not going to work out, so I couldn't do DPS tests last week. But this week I was able to beat him on difficulty 5. And then, of course, I cleared it on my actual team to get the score up. But yeah, this works on this boss, and Neurosim is, as far as I can tell, the hardest content in the game. She works fine on Paradoxical Labyrinth, the hardest difficulty. I can clear it consistently with DPS tests, and then pretty much any other content. So you'll be able to, for the most part, play her as a DPS and not having issues. The only place you might start to struggle is Neurosim. And I'm also on mobile, so I use auto-targeting, and if you're fighting like AoE, find multiple enemies, like Will Flameblade had this problem last week, where you'd be attacking him, and then a random ad would spawn, and then it would constantly fixate on the ad instead of him. So if it's multi-target, she's going to struggle if you have auto-target on. But if you're able to free aim, she'll probably be viable in any neurosim. But it just gets really difficult to play her then. But for single target, she'll work out. So for logistics, I'm using the Dharma set. You could maybe use this set, the Itawa set, but you have to scope. And honestly, the whole reason why I want to play Tess is because how she looks. And if you're scoped in, you're never going to see what she looks like. So at that point, yeah. So I use the Dharma squad, so I use hip fire. And what's great too is her skill, come to her skill, it has 3 charges. And every time you hit the target with a shot, it will reduce its cooldown by 0.5 seconds. So essentially, because this is a 5-second duration, you have 3 charges, the cooldown 6 seconds, but it gets reduced with shots. You have 100% uptime on that buff. So you basically have 70% bonus ballistic damage 100% of the time. For the weapon, I'm using chocolate filling. I think it's better than Eccentric Joker at tier 1. At tier 2, I think Eccentric Joker is probably the best weapon. But for now, I'm using chocolate filling at 2 out of 2. It's also, you get this from Paradoxical Labyrinth, so it's completely free to play. So that's nice. And what makes Tess kind of unique as a DPS is if we come to someone like Yao, when we look at her, as you can see, when equipped with a thermal weapon, so Yao, if you don't use a thermal weapon, you won't be able to get her whole kit in terms of DPS. However, for Tess, the only thing in her kit that relies off of her having an electrical weapon is her first manifestation, which just gives you more ult energy, since she doesn't have any way to use ult energy offensively outside of other characters. That extra ult energy doesn't matter. So you can use whatever sniper you want in the game and just use it for the actual sniper and not for the elemental type. So there aren't a whole lot of snipers in the game. So if we get a new sniper character in the future, which hopefully we will soon, that limited 5-star weapon could end up making DPS tests competitive in the future for all we know. So her potential for DPS is up there. So for, logistics, you go Dharma Squad. I want to try and get attack on everything. So I just have this one that I need to, swap out. And then for the other characters you want to run, this is the big one, Fenny Starshine. If you don't have her, then it is going to affect the build pretty massively, because what Fenny Starshine provides for Tess is nuts. What she provides for ballistic characters in general is nuts, but she really puts Fenny up there because of this ability, Inspiring Call. Inspiring Call is going to give Tess an extra magazine's worth of ammo, and it has 3 charges. So effectively, you're going to have infinite ammo on Tess. Sometimes even, if it's long enough, sometimes you will run out of those charges and you'll have to use normal shots, but you pretty much never have to reload. And the other thing, too, that's nice about snipers with this ability is, unlike with life, where it calculates based on the percentage ammo left in the clip, for Tess, it will give you the full amount regardless of how much shots you have left in your clip. So if you shot 8 shots and only have 1 bullet left, you'll still get the 9 bullets that it gives you. So that's really nice. And then, of course, it scales. It gives you basically 20% of Fenny's attack as additional damage for that. Then Fenny's weapon. I don't have her 5-star. If you have her 5-star, it'll be even more insane. But just with her event weapon, you're going to be providing a 25% additional ballistic damage boost for Tess. Then her logistics are going to provide another 40%. And then if we come to her neurotics, she's going to provide us another 12% plus alignment index. I have 500, so that's 17%. So you're going to be gaining like 82, like a ridiculous amount of extra ballistic damage and infinite ammo. And then the third character is sort of, up to what you have on your account. I have Agave. Agave is an amazing support, especially for ballistic characters, because she can utilize the Moxer set. There aren't really any support logistics out there that really work other than the Moxer set that I've come across. So for a skill character, there really isn't anything you can use. But for ballistic, you can use the Moxer set. All it does is gives you a 30% ballistic buff for 15 seconds when you use your support skill. You also get 20% attack for 1.5 seconds, but and it's permanent if the support skill does damage over time. But since most support skills are one and done, this is only going to be a 1.5 second buff of 20% attack, but the ballistic buff will be 15 seconds. So what's great about Agave is her support skill has a 15-second cooldown and a 15-second duration, so it lines up perfectly with that 30-second buff, or that 30% ballistic for 15 seconds. On top of that, it's going to buff the whole team by 20% attack, which is going to buff Fenny, because Fenny's clip scales off of her attack, giving her 20% more attack, then giving Tess 20% more attack, and then, the Fenny ammo is going to be buffed because of that 20% attack. So it's going to be buffing Tess even more because it's buffing Fenny, who then buffs Tess, and it scales off Fenny's attack. So that's the team I'm running. Let me go into NeuroSim, do Gavin real quick to show you. I don't know if I'm going to complete it necessarily. I already have before, but it does actually take some skill to do. It's almost kind of like playing Tess as like a Dark Souls character. You also want to try and weave to the left and right so that the shots hit, because there's some weird interaction. Now, one thing I'm going to do is a trick where if you ult on Tess, then immediately ult on Vidya, you can then swap back to Tess. That was a bad time to do that, but it removes the cooldown. So that's a trick that you can do, so that way you don't have a 2-second downtime where you're not playing as Tess. So you see, I just want to try and... Oh, I fucked up my stamina. I died. Okay. So I made a lot of mistakes there. Let me try again one more time. So you're going to open up, if you have agave, you're going to open up with this and that. Then you're going to do a skill so you can get that buff up. And I'm just going to keep strafing. And now I'm going to ult. And then I'm going to hit Agave's ult. Because she, and then I'm going to, probably going to have to roll. And then I'm going to switch to Tess. And as you can see now, I don't have any downtime. Because you want to get that ult off as Tess. Because it's going to give you a bunch of free damage. And it's also going to build up a shield. Which will be nice to have. And yeah, you just want to try and, keep refreshing the skill. You can use it more than within the 5-second window, but just use it to do some extra damage as well. And just try to keep on him. And you want to try and strafe kind of to the right and left. Otherwise, the auto-targeting with hipfire snipers doesn't always land. And you also kind of play her like a melee character to some extent, because that way you get the best accuracy for hipfire. And you just want to keep trying to do that. And then, of course, I have Agave, so I'm going to refresh her support buff to get that bonus damage. I don't think there's snapshotting in the game, so there's no reason to use Agave's ability first and then use Fenny's. You can do it either way. It's just that because Fenny's support skill doesn't take up a GCD, you're able to use hers and Agave at the same time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this and then I'm going to pop her ult, because it turns out that it does a lot of damage to destructible stuff. So I can just bypass that whole mechanic with that. That's another great reason why Agave is good. And they have such a low cooldown that I have that available all the time. So now I'm just going to keep at it. Keep at it. I think he does that thing like one more time, so I'm going to have to get ready for that. So now I'm going to pop the combo so that I can get back to Tess immediately while also activating her ultimate, so I have no downtime on Tess. Alright, there we go. And then pop that. I'm going to get hit by that, unfortunately. But as long as I don't die, I'll be okay. I'll be able to complete it. So just gotta, get through it. Getting pretty close. Okay, he's going to do this phase. Now we do the Agave trick to just bypass the mechanic. There we go. Alright. And we're almost going to kill him. So as you can see, this is NeuroSim 5. It's Gavin, so, he's one of the older NeuroSims. But at the end of the day, I'm not doing this on a normal DPS character. I'm doing this on Tess. And this is still some of the hardest content in the game. And I'm able to beat NeuroSim 5 Gavin with DPS Tess. So if we go like Paradoxal Labyrinth, and obviously the score's not going to be good, but I was still able to complete it. It wasn't till the wire either. I was able to get a decent clear time for what it was. Can go to Paradoxal Labyrinth now. And for Paradoxal Labyrinth, you'll be able to just steamroll through. Also, the reason why, too, is I got a lot of buffs, so that's nice to have, too. You build up buffs over time in Paradoxal Labyrinth. Yeah, so let me go in. The buffs, you get like, for this, you get more like sniper damage and rate of fire and ammo capacity and, like more crit and all this stuff. So this is another reason why Paradoxal Labyrinth is pretty good to try out builds like this, because you'll be able to see what they might need in the future, and then if they ever add that in through a weapon or a logistic or something or a character, then you'll be able to now play that in different content. So this is like almost like a PTR in a sense for some characters to do that. So go over here. It's not NeuroSim level of difficulty, so you'll be able to deal with trash not too difficultly this build. So I'm going to do the trick with Agave where I try to get the energy to 10, so that way when I pop my ult, there's no downtime. So pop that stuff. Again, you kind of want to play like a melee character. As you can see, I can get basically one-shot a lot of these enemies. Now I can do the trick. Do the combination. Bam. And then I will be able to pop to Tess immediately. There we go. Now I'm on mobile, so there's a little bit of a delay in me pressing buttons sometimes. So if you're on PC, you'd probably be able to just always switch to Tess immediately without even like showing that you were on agave. But either way, I can just run through here no problem. Just kill all these guys. I don't even have the special ammo and they're still gonna die. So I could keep going and keep getting buffs, but I think you get the point. You're gonna usually want to try and get some healing buffs along the way. Like I just got Chronic Steel, that's pretty good. That's really the only thing maybe, and depending on the RNG of the bosses that you get, like if you get the cube guy, he's going to be annoying as hell to kill. Because you do kind of rely on the weak spots to some extent with this build. But, again, you'll be able to get a lot of other buffs from NeuroSim, and that's going to get you up there. If you have one of the buffs that you'll really want to try and get is the Fenny one that increases your rate of fire by 100%. And then if you can get the buff that also increases your ammo capacity when you're firing, you can. If you get both of those buffs, you basically will turn Tess into like an assault rifle character, which is pretty cool. So, like a high damage, low ammo capacity assault rifle character. So that's pretty cool. These guys are really annoying to fight because they'll like destroy your abilities and go invisible. But as you can see, I can still just deal with them. Just play her almost like a melee character and just walk up to them and shoot them in the face. And see, now they're all dying. Not too difficult. There we go. But yeah, you get the point. I could get through all this stuff. I've done it multiple times. Obviously, if you want to speed clear NeuroSim, you're not going to play Tess. You're not going to do that in Paradoxical Labyrinth either. But if you want to play Tess, you've got skins for Tess. Like, I got this skin for Tess. And I don't want to just be, when I use this ability or this ability, I get to see this skin in action. I actually want to play Tess and use a gun on Tess. I want to do that. Well, that's how you can do it. You really need Fenny. Outside of Fenny, your third support character, it could be a bunch of characters. It could even be Enya. You're going to be spamming your skill a lot, so Enya actually will be useful because she's going to buff your skill damage. And then she's also going to be giving you a heal with her ultimate, so that will be useful to have. You could also use Life and put Moxer Logistics on her and then put on this weapon. With Agave, she can do that with Prismatic Igniter, the Moxer Logistics, but again, she also has this 20% buff on her support skill and the cooldown lines up perfectly. Her ultimate has a 10-second cooldown, 15-second cooldown, 10 energy cost. So effectively, it's a second support ability. If you have it on switch out, then you can use it and then immediately switch back to the character you're on. So the only time you have to switch back to Tess is when you do that trick with her ultimate. But outside of that, you just hit the ultimate ability once available, and it'll automatically switch back to Tess. Fenny Coronet can kind of work too because she can give you attack speed buff. And then on top of that, you can run the Moxer Logistics. You can run this version of Prismatic Igniter. The only downside is if we come to the cooldown, you can see that the cooldown is 20 seconds and it lasts 10 seconds. So you won't have 100% uptime on that, which is kind of annoying. Moxer, you're doing mostly ballistic damage, so not having the skill damage isn't that big of a deal. So Moxer's another great choice. The only problem is that she takes a ridiculous amount of investment to make her even on par with Agave. who takes no investment as a support. You literally can have her at level 1, and this is going to give you 20, not this, this is going to give you 20% bonus attack to your whole team with a level 1 Agave, whereas Moxer, you're going to have to level her up. You're going to have to, maybe get all of her neurotics and stuff. So it's a heavy investment character. And then the biggest thing is that this has a 26 second cooldown. So you're never going to have 100% uptime on that. She's great for burst, speed clears, but yeah, for consistency, she's not that good compared to Agave. So if you have Agave, it seems like Agave right now is the best third character for this build. There might be a better third one. And if we ever get a character that's like Fenny, but for attack speed, like you have multiple charges of attack speed, then she might be better than Agave in the future. But for now, it really seems like Agave is the best third character for this build. Because oftentimes Tess, with her limited weapon, is the character I use as the third character for a build. So since I can't do that, it seems like Agave is the best one. And and Agave even sometimes is better than Tess with her signature weapon and her logistics. Sometimes Agave still provides more DPS. It just depends on what the character is. If it's a ballistic team like my Life and Fenny team, Agave is usually better than Tess with her limited weapon and the logistics. But then for the new Katya, this Tess is, Tess with her limited weapon logistics is slightly better than Agave. So it depends on what the team is. But yeah, Agave seems like is the best for DPS Tess. And then Fenny obviously is the best for DPS Tess because it's all about ballistic damage, hip fire damage. Your skill's just kind of there as extra damage. Sometimes it gives you CC on the frost. And then also, just keeping that buff up so that you can do more ballistic damage with your Dharma logistics. So, yeah, that's the Tess DPS build. Like I said, the only content I've found where it doesn't really work is certain neurosims, but like I showed you with Gavin, it's possible to even work in neurosim. It just becomes kind of boss specific. And from my understand, even like characters that were designed to be a DPS, like Haru, apparently even they struggle with that, where it's like, oh, just don't run this character on certain bosses and then run them on certain bosses. So, at that point, it seems like she is a DPS or can be a DPS character. Because if other DPS characters have that problem, then it's not, that doesn't mean she's not a DPS. So you can make Tess a DPS. You just need to have Fenny. And really outside of that, you can get Chocolate Filling free to play. You can get these logistics free to play. Manifestations, her first and second one aren't really going to do anything for damage. Her third one will. Her fourth one will. And then her fifth one only will if it affects her. It might only affect allies. So her fifth one might not even be a DPS increase for Tess. And even if it is, it's not going to be a massive DPS increase until we get a thermal weapon. Because this, if you have a thermal weapon, will apply a dot that deals 10% of Tess's attack damage. So if you're going full attack damage on Tess, and then you have that, and it does affect Tess, and you have a thermal weapon, that's good, because it doesn't seem like Space Cowboy is that good right now, at least for Tess. Then, yeah, the potential could be through the roof with M5 Tess. But as far as I can tell, it seems like for DPS Tess, M3 is a stopping point. Anything past that, is a minor increase. So, that's the video. Kind of long, kind of rambly, but at the end of the day, I don't see anyone else making videos on how to play Tess as a DPS character. I keep seeing people say, well, if you want to get Tess, you can get her, but just understand that you'll never be playing her as a DPS. You'll just be having her sit in the background. She's good for Neurosim. That's what she's good for being a sideline bitch. Well, I'm here to tell you that She doesn't have to be on the sidelines. You can have her be the one that gets shit done. You just need to know how to do it. And also, you need to remember, and the best thing too, Tess isn't available right now in the gacha. Fenny is. So if you somehow missed out on Fenny, you got 7 days to get her. And I gotta say, you know, they're making Enya better. They definitely are because of new Katya. And maybe Marian will also be a skill-based character. But at the end of the day, the majority of the DPS characters, especially the meta good ones, are ballistic characters. So Fenny right now is probably one of the best characters in the game. Her power level will go down over time as Enya gets more characters to play with. But yeah, if you have Enya and Fenny, you have the two best support characters in the game. So just keep that in mind. If you don't have Fenny, it might be worth it to get her right now. So yeah, that's the video. Bye.